if I just face one, two hardships, I'm coming back because I don't want stress. I have my life set out for me. I'm flying in Nigeria. So where am I going to? But when I came, I'm one of the people that say, I was bamboozled by God. So hi, welcome to episode 2. And my name is Sophie Moka. I am a brand strategist. I am a tech consultant, specifically in the Salesforce world. I help business owners with building a brand, customer relationship management. I am big in the creative industry, right? Because that is like part or half of my whole talent, right? So social media, content creation, all of those things were my passion. They became, they were a skill and talent that I had that I sort of turned into a business called PINQ Communications, right? And now PINQ Media is an aspect of PINQ Communications that's coming out because I am transitioning or venturing into a world where we're creating more content and relatable content for people in the world and for people in Canada, you know, just to educate more, to relate, to create community. I think media, we're venturing into more content creation, to create that sense of connection and community and relatability, with people that are either new to Canada, right? New to those community, new to the nation as a whole, or people that have been here that are looking to help and touch lives and transform people and teach and educate and all of that too, right? So that's the idea behind PINQ Media. So Life in the Maple is one of our contents that we have created unintentionally. So let me explain a backstory. So we started a series in on PINQ Media called um, Maple Life series where we wanted to share just text like posts and stories about people in Canada, experiences and what they're going through, right? Whether you're an immigrant, whether you've been here for a long time, whether, it doesn't matter how long you've been, you're new to the country, all of that is new experience, new environment, new people, new languages, new communities, starting from scratch, starting a business, just sharing your talent, your skills, your passion, finding a way to contribute to the community or make your own impact. And so when someone special reached out to me and said, "Oh, you started this life and the Maple text like post like carousel like Instagram series where you're sharing about people's like relationship experiences, just creating that community relatability and connecting people together, like sharing in those experiences, advising and all of that thing." Like she was like, the first episode you watched, she was like, text will not do justice to my story and what I'm about to share. I think video will do justice to it. So I said, why don't you come on, hop into the studio? Let's do something with this, right? Let's share, let's do a video. So it was quick, it was unplanned. And those are some of the most amazing conversations you have with people, right? Sometimes when you don't even plan things, they turn out to be great. So I just want to officially thank everyone that liked, that shared the video, that reposted. I got a lot of followers from that video and I was surprised, up to 70 plus followers, right? And the same thing I was saying, sometimes the things that you don't plan, the things that you just authentically come into are the things that create that relatability and community with people, right? So I was glad that people could relate and people, I had several comments of people saying we should have more of this. Nobody really talks about the experiences, and the lives that we live, starting afresh in a new country, trying to rebrand yourself, trying to understand who you are, being faced with so many difficulties and, sad experiences, right? And then how to come out from that, how to win. So that's what Life in the Maple series is officially about. I'm just going to put this here. Anyone that has any questions about me or what I'm doing, my goals or topics that you think I should focus and talk about, please leave them right in the comments on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or also on YouTube, because you watching the video will be on YouTube. You listening to the podcast will be on Spotify. So we have 4 platforms that we share info about the podcast. No, 5 platforms. So The podcast, if you want to watch videos, it will be on Spotify and YouTube, because now Spotify has a section where I can upload videos. So you're listening to audio, you can, or you can also watch the video while listening to it, right? On Spotify. So it'll be Spotify will be audio, video, YouTube will be video alone. And then we would have bite-sized versions of the podcast and stories and everything on Instagram and on TikTok too. We're launching on Apple Podcasts soon, or just fine tuning some business details and all of that too. But also, I wanted to say, the first episode, it was posted on my personal YouTube page, Sophie Mocha page. But right now, we're going to be posting on the PINQ Media YouTube platform, because we're going to be creating a lot more content that has to do with, immigrant life in Canada. Not just immigrant life, everybody's life as a whole in Canada. Everybody's experiences, whether you're Black, whether you're white, whether you're, just shared experiences related to life. We're going to be talking about finance, relationship, love, cultural cross connection. We're going to be talking about our jobs, building a business, starting afresh, financial growth and prosperity, right? In that sense. So we're going to be sharing a lot of knowledge. I have been here for that's 7 years. So I came in 2018, May 2018. So 7, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 25. Why am I fast forwarding to 26? 25. So that's like 7 years. Wow. It's, ooh, it's been a long time. It's been a long time. And so a lot of times we see posts and we see questions that people ask around, people that are jackpotting. Jackpot is a term where I come from, originally in Nigerian. Yeah, I'm officially Canadian Nigerian. I love Canada welcomed me in and has become my home. Nigeria is ingrown, imbued inside of me. It's a home that can never be erased or divided or removed forever. An African princess, forever in Niger, babe. Mixed with Canadian, you know, mixed with Canadian, I don't know what to call it, ingredients or spice. But forever, forever, forever. So moving to Canada for me, yes, let's say the goal or the objective was in search of a better life. But also for me, ever since I was young, I've always had this notion that as a Christian and in my faith journey, I've always had this notion that, the way God created us and the world, we human beings were the ones that created boundaries, and confinement based on country, all of that too. And I believe in ancestry, family, heritage, like where you come from, your people, community. I believe so much in that. The language you speak, all of that too. But one of the things I don't believe in is that your impact and your growth and your goal, objective, or purpose in life is only confined to your country or your space. I believe in global expansion. I believe in global impact. I believe in, creating community outside of your country and connecting that community together. I believe in, making friends and building relationship across borders, right? And that's one amazing thing about social media that I love too. And so that's why when I got on Instagram years ago, I was just creating, sharing. I always loved storytelling. That was one of the things that made me stumble into my business, PINQ Communications, the idea of storytelling, branding, creating, connecting with the audience, understanding in depth what a product does, what a service does, how it connects to people, the solutions and all of that, to the beauty behind that. Some people will hear me talk about it and be like, is she okay? Is everything fine? But I alone understand what I'm saying, right? And it's what I believe is one of the gifts and skills and talent God has given me. So that's why I relate with those things differently. But so if you understand my purpose for agreeing to move, although my husband was being moved in different parts of the world, like you stayed in America a bit because he had to work there. He was posted to Kenya, he was posted to different places. Right? And then he was posted to Abu Dhabi and everything. And I was like, oh, since we have this Canadian, journey or path open for us, let's do it. Let's move there. And so I was excited about the idea. I've never been one person that wanted to move out of my country. I understood like global impact. I love that shared community and connection across borders, all of that too. But I always had my plan set up for me in Nigeria, what I wanted to do, right? I was working for a fashion brand, and we were styling celebrities, we're hosting celeb fashion events, all these kind of things, right? I was really growing and mixing with the community, right? Fresh out of school, university. So I kind of liked it. And I just had my first job. I was about to create a magazine company that talked about fashion, all of those things. I had my plans set out for me. And all of a sudden, let's move. I was like, what? No. I had no idea I was moving. Yes, I wanted to travel, meet people, make new friends, connections, build new relationships, establish like community relationships or business relationships outside of my country. But moving and residing somewhere else was never my intention. I was like, no, no, no. And then a lot of convincing my husband talked to me, we just, a lot of convincing. I said, okay, fine, I'll try it. And as a woman of faith too, I prayed about it and I asked God for a sign. And that sign came very fast, very fast. I was like, what? Maybe I'll share that part a little bit later. But that sign came very fast. And I was like, okay, I would listen, I would hear you. And if we go there and it doesn't seem to work out and my life is going backward instead of forward, I'm just going to come back. I'm just going to go back to my country, right? Let's try this out. So that was my idea and my thought. Let's try this out. Let's see if this works. I've never lived in a country for past. I've lived in a country for 3 months. When I was in school, I went to Togo because I studied French, foreign languages, and literary studies. I did French, I did German, all of that. And I was like, I've lived in Togo for 1 year. I've stayed in Ghana for about 2 months. I have gone to the US and stayed for about 3 months when I had my first child, second child. So 6 months in a whole in the US and all of that too. But I've never lived officially, permanently in a country. So let's try it and see if that works. And if that works, fine, we'll stay. If it doesn't work, if I just face 2 hardships, I'm coming back because I don't want stress. I have my life set out for me and planned in Nigeria. So where am I going to? Right. So that was my intention. That was my idea. But when I came, I'm one of the people that say, I was bamboozled by God. When I read that story, written by another Nigerian that is really doing well in the US, and she wrote the story Bamboozled by God. If I remember, Ivonoji. Yes, Ivonoji. Bamboozled by God. And when I read her book I was like, God does this every time. You would say, okay, let me give this a try. Let me do something else. And all of a sudden, every year, every second, every minute of the day, he keeps revealing different things to you. And then you keep growing in certain aspects that you never believed. I never believed I'll be a business owner. I didn't want to a business owner in brand, business, tech, Salesforce consultant, all those things were not attached to my person as a whole, right? If you had told me, yeah, I'll be a business owner in the creative aspect, like fashion, magazine style, fashion shows, content creation, maybe influencer management, all those things, I'm like, yes. Right. That was some of the things I started doing with PINQ Communications. Well, it was more building business and brand and communications. It was less of fashion. It was less of creativity. It was less of hosting shows, red carpet, all those things that I was doing in Nigeria that I love. Right. So I was bamboozled by God. And I'm in a space where I feel like I need to share that story and unveil. And things are still unveiling in my life. I haven't gotten to where I fully know that I'm going to be or where God wants me to be. But I know, as the story unveils, we would see, you all will see, we'll be here on the journey. Another thing I always dreamed of was to host a show because I was hosting red carpet events, for big events. I would do the red carpet hosting. I did some host for some fashion shows and all of that too in different states, in Abuja, in Port Harcourt, in Lagos, all of that too. And that has always been my flair. When I was younger, I would just pick up the newspaper. I remember I'd just be reading and reciting. And my mom and people looking at me like, what's going on? And they always said, maybe you'll be a journalist, right? So some of those strings have been in me, but where I am now, where I have evolved to, I never imagined it. So yeah, you could tell I was bamboozled by God. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. And I am excited for this podcast because I am looking to have interesting conversations with people, right? People that have been in Canada for years and years and years, whether they were immigrants and moved here, people that were born here, people that are natives of this land, people that are immigrants from my home country, Nigeria. I just want to, share and create that connection between us because sometimes, not sometimes, most times when you come to this country as an immigrant new, you feel sort of lost. You feel like a newborn baby. You feel like you've just been thrown into the jungle and the wild, like you're trying to understand because maybe you came in as a 30 something year old. I came into this country as a 26-year-old and I had lived 26 years of my life in Nigeria, right? So 26-year-old, I'm trying to figure out. I had built connections, I had built friendship, I had a path set out for me. I was about to start a business. Was about to start something I love. And I came into this country, I'm like, okay, where do I start from? And the first instinct or the first thing is I need to make money because you basically sold all of your properties and you came to this country new. Well, some people didn't sell all of their properties, right? Some people still kept their houses there for rent, all of that too. So we too had some of those things. But you basically gathered your money, your savings to come and survive. Because when you're coming here, especially through the express entry route, which is one of the pathways to migrate to Canada, and there are so many pathways, I would definitely bring an expert on this podcast to talk more about it so people are aware if they choose to take that decision and take that step, to create an impact community across borders, right? That's what I see it as. I don't see it as, oh, I'm just jackpotting. I'm just leaving my country. Things are hard. No, yeah, things are hard, but I know that I can do better. I know that if given the right environment to thrive and survive and build something, I can build impact that will one day impact my country. But I know that when you're coming in through express entry, they advise you on how much to bring into the country so that you can survive if you don't get a job early. How much to come with that, depending on your family size. So if you're a family of 2, 3, all of that too, they talk about that. The flight tickets you buy for your family, all of those things, we know that it's huge, huge, huge. So most of the people that come here are people that were already doing well in their country, right? At top position. But when you come, your first instinct is to get a job. And sometimes you try to get a job in the level that you were back home, but sometimes it doesn't work out like that. So you just have to find whatever you can find to put food on the table so that you don't squander what you saved up, right? So that just in case of emergencies and you lose that job or you lose something, you have something to fall back on, right? So those are some of the things I know that happens here. And then we'll talk about, financial, like so many things now are clear to me on thriving and how to win here and some of the things that work for us because we come with a different cultural upbringing and mindset and all that where you need to own everything. I need to pay everything with cash. I need to, we come here and then we find the credit system. And sometimes we're like, oh, we're not going to use it. And then we don't build credit score. Sometimes we use it and then don't know how to use it. And then we're in debt. And there's so many things, right? But now I'm at a stage where I understand it all, like how the economy works, how to, I won't call it playing the game, but how to understand and learn and how to, kind of connect the dots and fix the puzzle where they should be. So we're also going to talk about financial, growth, stability, all of that. Real estate is another thing that I stumbled upon and I discovered. I said, oh, this is how it works, right? Business too is another thing. So we're going to talk about business. We're going to talk about all that. But I'm excited to talk to people with different experiences. It doesn't matter the background or the color of skin or the country they came from or whether they are Canadian, that's they were born here, first generation Canadians, or the immigrants and all that too. It's all our shared experiences, that is our lives that we're living And I feel like having a space where we talk about it and, people can connect, relate, and understand is something that I have always wanted. So, yeah, welcome to Life in the Maple series officially. I just felt like coming on here to do an introduction so you get to know me more, get to know what we're going to be talking about, and looking forward to what you're going to expect to listen to and see on here. Don't forget to follow, like, subscribe, share this video with anyone that you feel would be interested in some of the contents that are going to come up. Also, if you would like to come on this podcast to talk, if you have something that you want to share with the community, to something they can learn from, something they can use to win as an immigrant here or as a person living in Canada, because we see a lot of posts about the hardship and a lot of things happening, but we know we can win. I went to a conference and the pastor was preaching and he kept talking about a dark cloud covering like the space Canada, a dark cloud that causes like financial crisis, all of those things. And at first I wanted to pause and say, they've come again, a dark cloud, which dark cloud, that kind of thing. But something in my spirit, I guess was the Holy Spirit that started to, like, I was there, everybody was praying and he was saying things, but in my spirit I was having like a conversation and an argument, and it was like, do you know the history of where you are? It's not just moving to a new country. Sometimes there's a history of a place that you were not a part of, that your forefathers and ancestors were not a part of. But as soon as you venture into that place to live, to reside, you become a part of that history. Not just a part of the history, you become a part of it. But then some of the things or the consequences of what has gone down in history, you start to share in those things too. And I was arguing myself, I was like, how? What do you mean? And then the host was like, well, go back and read. You're a Canadian citizen now. You read a little bit about the history. You read a little bit about the First Nations and the Indians that were here before. And have a bit of knowledge about certain things that happened to them. And some of those people, some of those kids that had things happen to them, some of the blood is still there crying out, right? I was like, oh, so what do we do? Because we're not a part of it, but you're in this country. And if you say that this place has become your home, you have to be part of the people making an impact to help elevate the space, the community, the society, to help in whatever little way you can to break some of the bonds and the bondage and the things happening. It's not in our power to the superhero complex, like, oh, I'm going to save the world, alleviate poverty. It's not in your power, but just to point people to the direction of the one who was brought to save the world, right? And save them. So having conversations like that, coming into this country new, sometimes you're not a part of what is affecting the society and the things you see, but you can be part of the solution that, lifts the nation and progresses and makes it progress, far from where it was, and try to help in whatever little way, and see how history cannot be erased, but how we can mend and come together and build relationships. So those are one of the exciting things I am looking forward to see and do with this podcast. Hopefully we'll be able to even go out in various parts of Canada and speak to communities, speak to people, and just show different parts of Canada and just create that community and that connection. Hopefully we'll get to do that as the podcast grows, as we continue to have guests and different things and share different things. But yeah, thank you for listening to me rambling and talking all along and just getting a bit of my vision and idea behind this. I am glad that you're here with me on this journey. So let's go. Don't go anywhere. Remember to follow and subscribe. If you don't subscribe, if you don't like, if you don't share, a lot of people will not see the content and the things that we're producing. But yeah, it's your host again, Sophie Mocha, and I'll see you in the next episode. Don't forget, Life in the Maple series. We're gonna survive, we're going to thrive, and we're going to win together. Okay, bye. Take care.